I'm Laurie Cardoza-Moore, and this is Focus on Israel. On March 19th of 2012, the shadow of the Holocaust fell across France in a horrific fashion, an attack on a Jewish school that left 7 dead and shook the world. This senseless, beyond reason event was yet another extreme in the annals of global genocidal antisemitism. Today on Focus on Israel, we'll see where the world's oldest hatred leads. Like most Americans, I began to ask a lot of questions about what happened to our country following 9/11. As I read and talked to experts, the issues of radical Islam and the attacks on America and Israel became extremely personal to me. I realized that Israel is facing threats from nearly every corner, from Iran's nuclear weapons program, from terrorist groups such as Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS. I also saw how much of the world comes against the Jewish state. The UN and the world continue to demand the creation of a Palestinian state, a terrorist state, on Israel's doorstep. The continued rise of global anti-Semitism is real and horrifying to the Jewish people in Israel. But as a Christian, why should you be concerned? Many German Christians turned a blind eye as their Jewish brethren were being led away and slaughtered in the Holocaust. Christians have come to believe that as the Jews rejected Jesus, then God has rejected them. This replacement theology is growing as many Christians believe they have replaced the Jews in God's prophetic plan. If you truly believe the Bible is the Word of God, then you know that when He speaks of Israel, He is speaking about the land of Israel, or Ephraim and the 10 northern tribes, or the whole house of Israel, all 12 tribes. The mission of this series and PJTN is to educate and equip you so that you can share this truth with your family and friends. The terrorist attack in France on March 19th of 2012 involved a French jihadist who went on a murderous spree in Toulouse. After shooting 3 soldiers, the terrorist moved on a Jewish high school. About 8 a.m., he rode up to the Ozar HaTorah school on a motorcycle. Dismounting, he immediately opened fire toward the schoolyard. The first victim was 30-year-old Jonathan Sandler, a rabbi and teacher at the school who was shot outside the school gates as he tried to shield his 2 young sons from the gunman. The gunman then shot both the boys, 5-year-old Ari and 3-year-old Gabrielle, before walking into the schoolyard. The attack deeply shook the local Jewish community, with many choosing to leave France altogether. At the recent NRB convention, we met filmmaker Lisa Burkhardt-Worley, who produced a documentary on the attack titled Terror in Toulouse: Has the Community Recovered? The film has won numerous awards, and on our program today, you'll see part of this impactful film. We now present Terror in Toulouse.
Toulouse, France, with over 1 million residents, is the 4th largest city in France, behind Paris, Lyon, and Marseille. It's known to locals as La Villa Rose, or the Pink City, because of the many buildings constructed with pink stone. As recent as 5 years ago, Toulouse was ranked the 2nd best place in France to work.
But as peaceful as it now seems here in Toulouse, residents have not forgotten what happened over 10 years ago when a radical Islamist on a motorcycle shot and killed 3 soldiers, then later opened fire on a Jewish high school, killing a religious teacher, his 2 young children, and the headmaster's daughter. Another student was shot in the heart, but survived.
A memorial now stands on the grounds of the Jewish high school where 8-year-old Miriam Monsenego, 6-year-old Ari Sandler, and his 3-year-old brother, Gabriel, were gunned down while waiting for a ride to their elementary school. Algerian French jihadist Mohamed Merah also shot and killed Ari and Gabriel's father, Rabbi Jonathan Sandler. He was a religious instructor at the high school. Mrs. C is an English teacher at the school and was there the day of the attack.
Let's just say it was probably the worst nightmare that you can imagine, and I really don't want any people to have to live through this, even my worst enemies, I would say. I knew there were young ones in the hall there, just close to, and I don't know, when I saw him just ran back into the building and shouted to the kids who were coming out from the synagogue, just shelter, get back to the synagogue and shelter. And they were just looking at me, with large eyes. And then I knew I didn't have time to go and tell them precisely, because I knew the younger ones were behind me in the hall. And I had to put this also, shelter them. So just shouted to the older ones who were looking at me like that, and then running back to the other building, telling the kids, okay, go shelter. And then I didn't go with them because I knew I had to call the police.
The Ozar HaTorah Jewish School has since been renamed Or Torah and dedicated to Miriam, who was the school headmaster's daughter. Rabbi Yosef Yitzhak Matusov and his wife Esther Matusov are the directors of the Gan Rashi Elementary School where the children attended. Despite the tragic circumstances, they said there were miracles that occurred in the midst of mayhem.
Dans le malheur, dans la tragédie,
there has been a great miracle. The miracle was that a terrorist arrived 5 to 7 minutes after the student went into class. Because they start at 8 a.m., they start tefillah. So most of the students were already inside when the dreadful killer arrived. There were no students in front of Ozar HaTorah, and the authorities were behind, and the police did not let them through.
So just the 5 were left in the school courtyard. The 3 Sandlers, Miriam Monsenego, and another boy who was wounded trying to save Miriam.
Brian, il s'appelait cet enfant, et Bijawi, Brian Bijawi.
Brian was the kid's name. Brian Bijawi got wounded, but unfortunately, he shot the little Miriam, who was older. She was 8 years old, already in CE2, which is 3rd grade. She was a very cute little girl, very sweet and very simple. She glowed, really a beautiful girl. And he grabbed her by her hair and shot her, so she was killed.
The terror of March 19, 2012 still haunts the Toulouse Jewish community. It was the first time since the Holocaust that Jewish children were murdered in cold blood. Toulouse Deputy Mayor Nicole Yardini was a regional president of the CRIF at that time. CRIF is a Jewish political organization whose mission it is to fight against all forms of anti-Semitism, racism, intolerance, and exclusion. The organization also defends human rights. Yardini was one of the early ones on the scene.
So when I was walking up, it's very strange because I was not questioning at that moment who did it. And when I got to the school, I'd like to spare what I saw because it's very difficult. It was still bodies and it was very... What I felt inside was that I was looking at my parents when I saw the kid. My parents were hidden children during World War II, and the similarities in their eyes. That's what I imagined my parents in that situation, having to hide, being afraid, being scared. It was a very strange feeling inside.
The killer, Mohammed Merah, was at large for 2 days after the school shooting, as authorities searched for him throughout Toulouse and all of France. It made those 48 hours extremely tense because there was concern there'd be another strike. What they did not know at the time is that Merah and his brother had planned a 9-day shooting spree.
After the shooting and the killing of the first paratrooper in Montauban, I read the information and I knew that it was a Muslim doing it, not the extreme right. The extreme right will never kill a French paratrooper, on the contrary. So I knew this was one element. The second element is the manner that they shoot him. They killed him, he killed them by touching them. You see? When you touch with the revolver. So this is a special manner to kill. Nobody's doing it like this. I knew what was the threat, and I said it. Nobody believed me. Nobody can imagine that without this kind of motivation, you can kill children. And what is the motivation? Hitler and the Nazi regime, they eliminated Jews because they said, they consider that the Jews are Untermenschen, not human. We were like microbes. For the Islamic faith, Jews, and for him, Jews are not human. You have to, you are obliged to eliminate us. This is what he did, with good faith. For him, it was an act of faith.
But 2 days after his ruthless act, Mohammed Merah was shot dead in a police raid. Meanwhile, in 2019, a Paris Court of Appeals sentenced Abdelkader Merah to 30 years in jail for complicity in the murders committed by his brother.
Because the Jewish people are very close to the Muslims, we often say we are cousins. So we imagine that we have the same values somewhere. We imagine that we are closely connected. In any case, we couldn't think that a human being so close to us could go and kill children so coldly in school. It seems surreal. You could say this type of tragedy only ever happened, killing children, during the Holocaust. Sure.
La Shoah, voilà.
The shooter was from a family who was close to Jews.
Ils avaient des médecins juifs.
They had Jewish doctors.
Une sœur.
One of their sisters was a babysitter for our school's children. The killer's sister. It means she knew us.
The rabbi of Toulouse, Rabbi Doron Naim, was a teacher at the high school when the anti-Semitic murders occurred, and he worked with one of the victims, Rabbi Jonathan Sandler. Now, he has the job of bringing hope to the Toulouse Jewish community.
It is evident that when God sends a challenge to a person, before it starts, He is already beside that person to help them. It makes me think of a story of a person who dreamed that he was walking beside God on the beach. He sees the footsteps of God and sees his own footsteps, but when a challenge comes, he only sees a single path of footsteps in the sand. And he complains to God, "But God, where were you during the tragedies? Where were you during the challenges? Where were you during the difficulties? I didn't see you by my side." Because there was only one path of footsteps. God answers, "Well, who told you that these footsteps are yours? These footsteps are in." And he asked God, "Where was I if my footsteps were not beside yours?" And God answered, "I was carrying you in my arms."
I want to take you to Israel in pictures and film. I want you to see how God's sovereign hand can be seen before our eyes right here in this land. That's why PJTN is offering a special anniversary package that includes a captivating new book and award-winning DVD. Israel Rising is a unique visual story of Israel's miraculous journey from unforgiving desert to thriving nation. Thousands of years ago, the prophet Ezekiel foretold a future time in which the arid land of Israel would come alive for its people. Now this breathtaking book documents the fulfillment of this vision, as rarely seen photographs from the 1880s to the 1940s are juxtaposed with recent photos of the same locations. This book will inspire and captivate you as it illuminates Israel's foretold awakening in a new and unforgettable way. In addition, you'll receive the award-winning documentary, Israel Indivisible: The Case for the Ancient Homeland. This inspiring film examines the many political twists and turns that make Israel the world's most controversial nation. From Abraham and the Promise to the issues facing the Jewish state today, the film examines the historical, archaeological, legal, and biblical foundations for the modern state of Israel. This is a limited time offer for these two remarkable resources for just a one-time gift of $70 today. Your generous donation will help ensure that PJTN stays on the front lines and in the headlines of all the important issues facing Israel and our Jewish brethren. So please go to pjtn.org today. From studying history, it's very clear that what starts with the Jews never ends only with the Jews. We must strongly stand against any anti-Semitic trends, for if not stopped, they'll cause harm to all of us, and we'll witness the downfall of our Judeo-Christian Western culture. Today, many people say there's no longer a need for a Jewish state, that Jews around the world no longer need a place of refuge. But anyone who has heard recent statistics about the worldwide rise in anti-Semitism would never make such a claim. The reality is that neo-Nazi groups and Nazi sympathizers are increasing around the world. Surveys show that over 1 billion people in the world harbor anti-Semitic attitudes. Close to 50% believe that Jews have too much power in the business world, and 2/3 of the world's population has never heard of the Holocaust or believe the historic accounts of it are inaccurate. Don't let yourself be manipulated by evil people with a wicked agenda. When the self-serving villains are in control, good people from all religions suffer. Muslims, Christians, and all people of conscience should stand proudly and show respect for a country that gives so much to the world in so many ways. Do your part, do your research, and do what you can to make a difference. Because what happens in Israel does affect us all. This is not just a Jewish or just an Israeli problem. This is a problem for all humanity, for each and every one of us who believe in freedom and human rights. Learn more about what you can do at pjtn.org.
It's been over a decade since this merciless act of terrorism. So is there now a sense of shalom in the Toulouse Jewish community? Considering 600 Jewish families have moved from this area since the attack, it's a good question to ask.
We can't stop the people who decided to go to Israel. Israel is an ideal life for a Jew, and it's registered like that in the genes of the Jews.
But the overriding thought is that anti-Semitism is not going away and is still a problem that is escalating in France, causing many Jewish families to leave. Toulouse Mayor Jean-Luc Méden agrees. In a speech he gave marking the liberation of the city of Toulouse from the Nazis, Méden said that anti-Semitism has not disappeared and is even resurging. Deputy Mayor Nicole Yardini explains the threat.
I link it, and I'm not the only one, to the civil war in Algeria. There was a civil war in Algeria during the 90s between Islamists and the government. And when the government finally won, a lot of Islamists came here in order to convince others to join the jihad. And we felt 97, 98, 99, that things were changing. And then there was 9/11 in the United States, and a lot of people in those neighborhoods started rejoicing. And we felt that things were getting worse. We tried to warn the officials and warn them and warn them, not only about Jews, but what was the struggle that was happening in the world and in the West within certain groups. But it was easier to sweep it under the rug.
In an extensive survey on anti-Semitism in France conducted by the American Jewish Committee, 85% of French Jews say anti-Semitism is a widespread phenomenon in France today, and 73% believe it's increased over the past 10 years. 3/4 of French Jews claim they've been victims of anti-Semitic attacks during their lives, including derogatory remarks, threats on social media, verbal threats, and physical violence. So is there anything that can be done overall to reverse this upward trend of hatred? I asked Olivier Melnick, a French Jew from Paris who now lives in the Dallas, Texas area. Melnick is considered an expert on anti-Semitism and has written several books on the topic.
So Olivier, how can we prevent anti-Semitism?
Well, Lisa, I don't think we can prevent it, but it's like the bully on the, in the schoolyard. Sometimes you can't prevent them, and you still have to fight them. It's the right thing to do. So we have to fight anti-Semitism. We have to help the victims of anti-Semitism, the Jewish people. I don't believe it's ever going to stop completely until Messiah returns. That's the end, when anti-Semitism will be conquered. But until then, we have a duty to speak up, to say that it's wrong, to defend our Jewish friends. I take a biblical worldview. So for me, I look at things through the lens of the Bible, and through the lens of the Bible, I know that my Messiah is going to return one day, and until then, there's going to be much turmoil in the world. I mean, you don't have to look much, to see we're going there. We're not quite there yet, but there's going to be a lot more turmoil. There's going to be a lot of animosity between the world and Israel and the Jewish people, and anti-Semitism is going to, unfortunately, increase even more than what we see right now.
As a teacher, of course, my answer would be teaching people again and again and again, especially so as the last witnesses from the Shoah generation of course, are dying now because they are old. We have to be the next generation. We have to be the next witnesses. We have to do it. We have to fight hatred every day, every single minute.
And this hatred is hereditary, and often we perceive that people with hate towards the people of Israel don't even know what it is. They don't know what Israel is. If you take the majority of people who hate Israel and make them travel to Israel, they will discover the solidarity and unity of the religions that are there, between the mosques and the churches, and how the Arabs live with the Jews. And when they are hospitalized, they have the same rights. We can say that Israel is a country of apartheid. People are ignorant and unknowledgeable. It's the misinformation from when they were young, made on social networks that went to their heads and fed this hate. But unfortunately, this hatred is really unjustified and incomprehensible. It is necessary to just try to understand better what is going on in the world and try to be interested in it. It's necessary to have general knowledge, and from that point on, when we understand what the people of Israel bring to humanity, there is no longer a need to feed that hatred.
I think for Christians, coming from Catholic tradition, the late Pope John Paul II, who had many Jewish friends, said, the Bible is written by the Jews, and you cannot fully understand it if you don't read it without them. So read the Bible with the Jewish commentaries. Go find the Jewish commentaries. See how the word is understood. And you cannot understand the Second Testament without the first.
Anti-Semitic attacks like the one that occurred in Toulouse are acts against Almighty God. Psalm 11:5 says, "The Lord tests the righteous, but his soul hates the wicked and the one who loves violence." We must keep our eyes open and renounce any hatred against the Jewish people. It is through the Israelites that God first revealed himself to mankind. Deuteronomy 14:2 says about the Jews, "For you are a holy people to the Lord your God, and the Lord has chosen you to be a people for himself, a special treasure above all the peoples who are on the face of the earth." It is up to humanity to promote peace and harmony rather than hatred and strife. Let's put an end to anti-Semitism before it ever materializes. That way, there will never be another day of terror like the one that occurred in Toulouse.
As watchmen on the wall, we must be vigilant and stand up against such senseless acts of hatred and violence. Until we all decide to do our part, global genocidal anti-Semitism will continue to grow like a cancer in our world. We've come to the end of another program, and I want you to know we appreciate your support. The time to take a stand is now. Be a leader in your community and in your church. One person can make a difference. Get involved with and support pro-Israel organizations such as PJTN. Call your senators, congressmen. Let your elected leaders hear from you. Visit our website to learn more. Sign up to receive action alerts and order our films to share with family and friends. Please encourage everyone you know to tune in and become informed. God bless you, and thank you for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren and all Israel. We'll see you next time on Focus on Israel.
To support this program, send your tax-deductible gift to Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, P.O. Box 682711, Franklin, Tennessee 37068. You can also support PJTN online. Visit pjtn.org or call 1-877-873-9020.
Anti-Semitism has reached epic proportions, and Israel is now surrounded by nations who seek its destruction. For Israel to lose just one battle would mean losing everything. As Christians, it is our biblical responsibility to stand with our Jewish brethren and Israel. PJTN needs your help to reach more Christians with this urgent message. Please visit our website to become a member today and order our award-winning documentaries. You must decide that you won't be silent. Sign up now at pjtn.org. God bless you, and thank you for your support and prayers.